Have you ever fumbled your phone and somehow managed to catch it just in time? Well, what's actually happening in your brain and body during that split second? We're going to cover the whole thing, from the method to those tricky exam questions.
Before we can even think about measuring reaction time, we've got to understand what's going on inside our nervous system. It's all about signals, pathways, and speed.
Just take a second to think about it. Catching a ball, tapping a screen in a game, hitting the brakes, how fast can your body actually respond when it needs to? That's what we're talking about.
Reaction time is simply the time it takes to respond to a stimulus. A stimulus is just a change you detect, like seeing a ruler drop, and the response is what you do, like catching it. That tiny gap between seeing and doing, that's your reaction time.
Now, this is a really important distinction. What we're measuring in this practical is a conscious reaction. That's when a signal travels from your eyes up to your brain for processing and then all the way back down to your hand muscles. It's a bit of a journey, so it takes time. But a reflex action, like pulling your hand away from something hot, is totally different. That signal takes a shortcut. It goes to your spinal cord and straight back out to the muscle, completely bypassing the conscious part of your brain. It's an involuntary, super fast safety mechanism.
Okay, so we know we're measuring a conscious reaction. The big question is, how do we actually do that in a classroom? Well, we use the classic ruler drop test. The method itself is pretty straightforward, but you have to be precise. One person holds the ruler and the other gets their thumb and finger ready at the 0 mark. Then, without any warning, it's dropped. You catch it as fast as you can and record how far it fell. Now, the key to any good experiment is reliability, right? That's why you have to repeat the test several times. It helps you spot any weird, anomalous results you can ignore, and then you can calculate a mean, which gives you a much more accurate picture.
But just measuring your reaction time once isn't really a full investigation. To hit those top marks, you've got to test how a specific factor affects it. This factor is your independent variable. That's the one thing you decide to change, like whether someone's had caffeine or if there's music playing. Your reaction time, the thing you measure, then becomes your dependent variable.
Well, now we have to turn that raw data into something that actually tells us a story.
First up, you need a nice, clear table, just like this one. Look at the headings. They're really specific, and they include the units. Perfect. You've got a row for each attempt. Now, if you had one result that was way off from all the others, that's what we call an anomalous result. You'd cross that one out and not include it when you calculate your mean because it would mess up your average. The mean for each condition is what you'll use to make your comparison.
And this is how you show your findings visually. Since you're comparing two different categories, with and without distraction, a bar chart is absolutely the right choice. You just plot the mean distance for each condition. You can see straight away what happened. In this case, it's obvious that the ruler fell further with distraction, which means the person's reaction time was slow.
Right, let's talk about how to get those top marks in the exam. For any investigation to be a fair test, you have to control all the other variables. This is so important. It means you keep everything else the same, so you know for sure that it was your independent variable that caused the result. So you'd use the same person, make sure they use the same hand, drop the ruler from the same height every time, and keep things like background noise consistent.
Let's be honest, no experiment is ever perfect, and examiners love it when you can identify the weaknesses. For example, if you read the ruler from an angle, that can cause something called parallax error, making your readings inaccurate. Or maybe the person dropping the ruler is accidentally giving a little hint before they let go. For a major improvement, you could ditch the ruler altogether. Using a computer-based test is way more precise and accurate. It gets rid of all that human error and gives you results down to the millisecond.
So here's a classic 6-mark question. To get full marks, you need to describe a complete method. You'd start by measuring the person's reaction time before the coffee, do a few repeats, and find a mean. Then they drink the coffee. You wait for a specific amount of time for it to kick in, and then you do the whole process again. And don't forget the most important part. List all your control variables to prove it's a fair test.
So let's boil it all down to the absolute must-know facts in a quick-fire recap.
Right, here's your final checklist. First, reaction time is a conscious response that involves your brain. Second, we can measure it using the ruler drop test. Third, to investigate properly, you only change one variable. 4. You have to do repeats and calculate a mean to get reliable results. 5. Control everything else to make it a fair test. 6. A bar chart is the best way to show your mean results. And finally, for top marks, always think about errors and suggest improvements.
And there you have it, your complete guide to the reaction time practical. So next time you're going about your day, have a think. What things, from the music you listened to what you had for lunch, might be secretly speeding up or slowing down your reactions? Thanks for joining me.